welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking around. So, like I mentioned in the previous episode, what's happening now is a bit of a trial and error of new formats, different setups. So, this is another setup that I'm figuring out and trying out. So, I'm going to cover the rest of the books from 2025 and then speak a little bit about some of the books of 2026 and go from there. Okay, so I'll just look down at my notes every so often because my notes are over here. I don't want to talk nonsense to you guys, which they might be nonsense, but it's fine. So this review is going to be the review of The Covenant of Water. Off the bat, like to start, I didn't finish the book. I couldn't. I struggled with it, and I not struggled to connect. I quite liked the way the author had written his story and his style of writing. I just felt it was maybe a little bit too long. Maybe it's just not for me. It's the kind of genre that I enjoy in the sense that it does have historical fiction and it's got that as a pretty strong component running through. But I don't know, I just struggled to finish it. I put together plans, like reading plans of trying to get it done, and then I realized that this is a made-up rule in my head, and if you don't finish a book, it's not the end of the world. So I'm not sure if other viewers have struggled to finish the book or have finished the book. If you have, great for you. For me, I don't know, I struggled. So if anyone else has maybe struggled to finish the novel, just let me know. But of what I managed to consume and what I read, I will still give a bit of a final review because I don't know if I will revisit the title anytime soon to give like a proper full review. So I'll just review what I managed to get through and what stood out for me of what I did manage to read. Okay, so also not finishing books is fine. I think that's the theme, yeah. Okay, so along the lines of the bookmarking, I think a big theme of The Covenant of Water and what I managed to read of The Covenant of Water to me was grief. I felt like there was a lot of loss and a lot of mourning and a lot of disenfranchised grief and grief that didn't know where to land and a lot of not quietness but maybe secrecy around certain losses, around, if you've read the story, around the issue of the water and what that's meant to the family in the novel. It's really, for me, quite a profound theme of grief and loss and even anticipated loss, where there's illness, there's the reality that there's children with disabilities, so sort of grieving an anticipated future of a child that may not be able to live that kind of future. There was also loss of characters in the book, which was pretty shocking. I thought though that was written very well and those alternative narratives were written really beautifully. So we know about, from the earlier synopsis that I did, we know about Digby, we know about Big Amachi and Jojo, and we're then learning about the doctor that's preparing the clinic for people with leprosy. And for me, I would have loved maybe if the different narratives were individual novels. I would have been able to, I think, get through all the stories more meaningfully. In my opinion, I think I would have been able to really consume it differently if each narrative had its own book. I think that stood out for me. Each of the families were really meaningful, and I like that there was this interwoven thread between all the narratives about geography, water, life, death, grief, you know what I mean? But I think I would have enjoyed it as individual titles on their own. I'm looking at the bookmark, which I'll still show on the screen. So the big thing is, for me, the theme that I took was grief, like I mentioned, and the relationship with water that each of the individual characters have in their sort of dispersed geography in the same location, sort of. I found quite interesting because the relationship with water at some points was tumultuous, at some points was a space of grief, was a location of pain and loss and intergenerational loss as well. So I think my favorite stories or narratives, and it's probably indicative of the fact that I didn't finish the book, but was the story of Big Amachi and Jojo and Digby. His story, his life really struck by grief in losing his mom, in his own challenges with his own life, his own upbringing, wanting to serve a purpose for the Indian community as a doctor, but having to negotiate politics and hierarchy and that sort of thing. And I found his storyline quite riveting. I felt a lot of sadness reading the story of Jojo and that family line, because there's grief in the husband becoming a widower. I'm not sure. It's widower, I think. Yeah, widower. And then, the relationship with sort of child brides and that kind of thing was very sad, very, very sad, but very well written. So I think that's my final sort of thought, that as much as I couldn't finish the novel, it's really beautifully written. So I think that stands out for me, and that really struck me with how beautifully it was written and the different way in which it was written, I think, interspersed across the timelines. I really was rooting for Digby. I was rooting for myself to get through the novel, but I didn't finish it. In any case, The Covenant of Water, I think I would still recommend it. I would recommend it if you have the wherewithal, I think, to read bigger novels. I think I'm not really a very big novel person, and I think this was an attempt to try and cross that boundary line of like a shorter format, maybe 200, 300 page books to like a 700, 800, and maybe the jump was too big. I'm not sure, but I still recommend it because I think what I did manage to read, I really enjoyed, and I found it really insightful and meaningful and creative, and that's sort of what you want out of something that you're reading and putting time into reading. So stay tuned for upcoming episodes, for what's coming next, and don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe. Please, in the comments, let me know if you managed to finish the book, what's some of the details that I missed, that I didn't get to read. Please leave your thoughts below. Thanks so much. Bye.